So good afternoon to everyone. My name is David Godinez, and I'm an engineer here at DataJoint. And I'm really excited to be here with you all and to give you guys a lesson on DataJoint. For our session today, we'll be giving an introduction into DataJoint, specifically the framework. And here we'll go over the fundamentals of our framework. And so the following are going to be our objectives. So we're going to talk about DataJoint workflows. We're going to create our first workflow. We're going to interact with this workflow. So we'll be doing a query and a fetch from a database, and we'll use DataJoint to automate computation. Now, if these terms seem a bit foreign to you right now, please don't worry. By the end of our session, you will be able to explain each concept. So first things first, we're gonna import our necessary libraries. As Kabi had mentioned earlier, you import DataJoint, using the import DataJoint or alias is DJ. And we import the remaining, you import NumPy as well. So Kabi gave a really, really great explanation of what a DataJoint workflow was. And I'm just gonna piggyback off of what he said. And if you'll follow along with me right here, I'm gonna read it just to really formalize this definition and to really set it in stone for us. Before I read this though, I just wanna give the caveat that the word workflow and pipeline, I'll use them synonymously. So if you hear me say pipeline sometimes or workflow sometimes, know that they're pretty much the same thing. So if you visit the documentation for DataJoint, we define a pipeline as follows. A data pipeline is a sequence of steps, more generally, a directed acyclic graph with integrated storage at each step. The pipeline may have some nodes requiring manual data entry or import from external sources, some that read from raw data files, and some that perform computations on data stored in other database nodes. And while this is an accurate description, it may not be the most intuitive definition. Put succinctly, a data pipeline or a data workflow is a listing or a map of various things that you work with in a project, with lines connecting these things to each other to indicate their dependencies. The things in a pipeline tend to be the nouns you find when describing a subject. And the things may include anything from a mouse, an experimenter, equipment, to an experiment session, trial, 2 photon scans, electric activities, receptive fields, neuronal spikes, and even figures in a publication. So a data pipeline gives you a framework to 1, define these things as tables in which you can store the information about them, and 2, define the relationships in particular, the dependencies between these things. So you get to define your objects, define your things, your nouns, and then you get to define how they're related to each other. As both Dimitri and Kabi had said earlier, DataJoint employs the relational model. And a data pipeline can serve as a map that describes everything that goes on in your experiment, capturing what is collected, what is processed, and what is analyzed or computed. A well-designed pipeline not only lets you organize your data well, but can bring out logical clarity to your experiment and may even bring about new insights by making how everything in your experiment relates together more obvious. So let's go ahead and build together a pipeline from scratch to better understand what a data pipeline is all about. So we definitely subscribe by the philosophy that we learn best by doing. So